the recordings. And it just has a option there to accept it or to leave if you're not comfortable with the recording. We are going to ask all event attendees to mute your microphone during the Q&A, and then please put any questions that you have in the chat. We will have time later to share these questions with our speaker, and we'll have a chance to ask those questions and then hear back. As always, we always begin with the acknowledgement that we are on traditional Indigenous homelands. And tonight I'm in Duluth. It's a city that rests on ceded land that was negotiated through the Treaty of 1854 between the United States government and Anishinaabe tribal nations. I'm grateful to be here on this land. And also ask other people to, we always start with that acknowledgement. Tonight we are here with Frank Goodwin. Excited to be here with Frank to learn more about the traditional forms of community-led healing. I'm going to introduce Frank in just a minute, but I want to just do a quick introduction for myself. LeAnn Littlewolf, Indigenous Jaganashimoin, Idash Indisogijik Indigo, Mainga Indu Dame, and Gazagasqua Jimekag Nuunjaba. Nindanoki, American Indian Community Housing Organization, AICHO, and Ninda Gitchio Ningamasing. So my name is LeAnn Littlewolf. That's my English name. My traditional name is Everyday. I belong to the Wolf Clan and I come from Leech Lake. My mom and dad and both sides of my family come from Leech Lake. I live here in Duluth and I work at AICHO, which is the American Indian Community Housing Organization. AICHO is a nonprofit that started in 1993, and we have a mission to honor the resiliency of Indigenous people by strengthening communities and centering Indigenous values in all aspects of our work. AICHO has a domestic violence emergency shelter, Dabanugan shelter. We also have the Gamaji Mino Bama Dizu Min permanent supportive housing. It's 29 units of supportive housing. And we also have arts and cultural programming, a food sovereignty initiative, a health equity initiative, and a social enterprise, Indigenous First, which features food items from Indigenous community. As a community organization working to deepen cultural strategies that are effective to improve community conditions, I'm really pleased to welcome Frank Goodwin. I know Frank just went off camera and he'll be back in just a minute, but just to talk a little bit about Frank, I've known Frank for some time and he often comes to help us when we have ceremonies on site. Recently, we started to have graduation ceremonies honoring graduates out of our Gamaji permanent supportive housing program. So anyone who receives their diploma or GED, we do a traditional feast and honoring ceremony. And Frank has come to the 3 graduations that we've had that we just started this summer. So, and unexpectedly, Frank gifted each of the graduates with the eagle feather. It was a huge honor. Frank always has really kind and wise words to say for the graduates, but also for the community members that show up to support and congratulate them. And then we have a traditional honors song, and we are able to gift the graduates with a traditional blanket. We wrap the graduates in the blanket, and then the community comes up to thank them. And then during that honor song, and then we all eat together. And it's been really great to have those events. And we're really grateful that Frank can help us be able to mark those times of achievement. So we invited Frank here tonight because we were going to talk a little bit about the many years of community work that Frank has been doing with helping our community with traditional healing. So Frank, I'm going to ask you if you want to do an introduction for yourself, and then I have some questions that get us started.
Alrighty. Well, I'm going to say bonjour. I'm first going to start out with a virtual blessing with the sage here. We do that every Tuesday night. We take in the blessings from the sage and good feelings, good thoughts. I always start off with a little prayer, asking Chimanidu, our creator, to watch over us and to bless us in a good way, and the things that we do, that help to try to help our people in the best way that we can. The sage is always the blessing is always a part of it. Throw some out to you guys. Well, say bonjour. Jean Skogi que déjà na casa banco do den. Da vou beginner kag denji ba. Say dapo pinamo sino asema. Kaya get on kana gegu. I was saying shnam. Diko ge we de kagyak wapdun shano ne gabi nun gwedi nun amoki. Ori kimanama de mani do and Bob de boy we independent gig sema. Kaya get on kana gegu. I was saying shnam. Jimmy do minabu marazi when. We just ask the Creator to watch over us and to bless us in a good way. And not only us, but our families and our community and the people that we try to help in the best way that we can. So again, it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be part of this program in AICHO. And long ago, my mother, when I first started forming AICHO, my mother was part of that. She worked there for many years, helping the ladies and stuff. So with that as part of my connection to AICHO. But yeah, I just want to say Miigwech, and we'll get started here.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for that opening too, Frank. So I want to talk a little bit about, you work with Minnow, or I know I always say it wrong, but Mikana. And where is that and what do you do?
Well, Minamana, in our language, it means a good road. Our ancestors always talked about the Minobamadaziwen, learning how to live a good life. And Minamana means a good road, to walk that good road. And years ago, about 10 years ago now, maybe probably a little longer, I was working out at Mashkalo Treatment Center. And I resigned my position out there and as a cultural coordinator, and I was just kind of just sitting around doing nothing really. And I had an idea, and I saw a need in our community, for be able to help. My father, was a big part of that here in Duluth as well. Many years ago, he started a program called the Walk Stall Program, working with men coming out of prisons, in the old Bethel Work Release Program. And I started working with him and, doing things for him and helping him out and working with the youth and, cultural and providing. We built a sweat lodge out at the house and we started helping the people, opening up the door, and so 10 years ago, I opened up a door and we started a talking circle. And at the beginning, it was kind of tough. Just my wife at times, and a good friend of ours, he became a good friend, and he would be there. So there'd be three of us, but we were there every Tuesday evening at 7:00, and I approached Kamaji AICHO at that time, the director, and asked her, if we could have some space. And she said, sure, and I think she might have had, didn't hesitate, but might have had her, doubts that, it would work, and, being consistent, and being there, showing up, and the philosophy of, we don't know why people come. All we do is open up a door for them to come to. And once we started it, and a lot of people come, and we started out with two of us, and prior to COVID, 3 years ago, we got up to like 40 people every Tuesday night would come to our group, and we had to have it down in the gymnasium at the AICHO, and we progressed from there, and somewhere down the line, I decided, I talked to my wife, and we started a nonprofit called Minneminnicana, and the cultural and wellness, because a lot of our people that we deal with, that come to our groups are in recovery. They're recovering from alcoholism, drug addiction, but also, there's a lot of trauma and a lot of guilt and shame that comes along with that. And providing a place for them to come to that they feel safe and they feel secure, enough to start opening up, start to begin the healing process. And we always open up with a blessing from the sage, and we smoke the pipe, and and we get together and we gather, and we have our little, we have our talking circle. And again, like I said, at the beginning, there were just a few of us, and now, we moved it over to the White Earth office. It's just right across the street from the Gamaji building. But when COVID hit, we started it on Zoom, and that was my first introduction to Zoom. So every Tuesday night at 7:00, we have it on Zoom, as well. And that's the original talking circle. Now it's on Zoom, and as part of an organization, every now and then we started having wellness and fun night, fun night and recovery, and we'd invite a couple of speakers from different reservations, different places, and they would come and tell their story, share their experience, strength, and hopes, and we'd all get together, and they would tell their story, and we'd give away quilts, and and then we'd have a dance, a dance at the end, and in a lip sync contest. And people love that lip sync contest. We all sing along to the radio. We all have a song that we can sing real good, and share opportunity to sing along with it. And that was kind of the highlight of our evening, and it was a lot of fun. And the money we raised, it was a suggested donation, but we sold tickets and whatever, and for quilts, raffle off quilts, and then that was our prize money. So it'd go right back to the people anyway. But those are the types of things that we would do, and we provide a lot of different types of wellness activities. And for now, what's going on with the opioid addiction, and it causes a lot of grief and bereavement, and being a bereavement. I'm not a specialist, but I conduct bereavement groups, and helping people through the process of understanding the symptoms that come along with grief, losing a loved one, and through death. And today, opioid, you're talking about you got the opioid epidemic, and fentanyl overdoses. Our people are dying. Our younger generation, they're dying. We have a whole generation of people that are, and not all addicted, but there's a large percentage of them that are. And so, providing people that opportunity to begin the healing process, that's so important. And that's what our talking circle is about, to begin the healing process. And I got many stories. I mean, where people come in and just let it out. They let all the hurt and pain out, and and they excuse themselves, and they come back, and and they start laughing. They go through the whole process, and it's a wonderful thing, understanding these things, and we deal with people that have mental illness, anxiety, depression, bipolar, different types of mental illnesses. People come to our group, and we I guess that's how we welcome them. Come on in. They might feel being outcast in society, but we greet them with open arms. Come on. And if they should relapse in that process, they're always welcome back. Recovery it's a challenge at times. And a lot of people do relapse, but we're there for them. To come back, we do understand. And it's just not people in recovery. We have other people that come, that say, "Oh, well, I'm not in recovery." That's what, come on anyway. All are welcome. Come on in. That's one thing my father told me long ago. Never disregard anybody, regardless of the color of their skin or their religion, whatever. Because we're all and human beings and we all suffer in some sort of way, and we struggle. So we're here. And from there, starting that nonprofit organization, we just really opened up some doors for us, and understanding that process. And again, we get frustrated at times, because we never have enough. If you have a nonprofit organization, you live and die by the donation, but we do what we do with what we have, and that's fine. And I always tell a little story about a lady named Diane. She came to our group one night, and that's when there were just a few of us. And I was getting frustrated, just like giving up. Why am I doing this? And I'm sure a lot of we think like that. Why am I doing this? And nobody's coming, and we get discouraged at times. And why am I doing this here? And I was just kind of venting. I was venting there, and this lady, I don't know how she found out about our group, but she came, she was a non-native woman, and she really liked when we'd bless her with the sage. She really liked that, and she would say amen, and things like it was really nice to get to know this lady, but right away I could sense that there was something different about her. She came in, she had about 3-4 coats on. She had plastic bags, full of stuff wrapped around her, tied to her waist. And when she started speaking, you could kind of tell she had a little mental illness going on. And here she was a homeless woman. And she lived from the shelter to shelter, and and she come to our group, and this and that. And I'm sitting there, and I'm frustrated, about to give up, to say, why am I doing this? And pretty soon she reached in her purse and she pulled out $1. And she gave me that $1, and she said, "I hope this helps." And it was just like, wow, this homeless lady with a little mental illness is giving me $1 so I don't give up. So I came home and I put that dollar bill in a frame, and I look at it every time I feel like giving up. I look at that dollar and think of Diane and say, no, it's not about the money we have. It's about the people we serve. And our people out there are suffering, and they're walking in the darkness, and hopefully we can open up a door, to the light. Come on in, come on in. We love you. We care for you, and all are welcome. And like I said, I got many stories. Somebody asked me, why do I do what I do? And I don't know, I was working at the Ojibwe school, Fond du Lac Ojibwe school, and kind of filling in. And I was sitting at the front desk, and this little girl come up to me. And she looked at me, and she was second grade. And she looked at me and she said, "My mommy died. She died from drinking." And I was like, wow, okay. My training and breathing, this and that, how to react to, different things like that. But her little friend that was standing next to her said, she was just laid out. Like it was nothing. It was common. And so right there and then it's like, okay, it kind of reinforced, like this little girl, my mommy died. And she's in second grade. I don't know how old second graders are, but that little girl's life will never be the same. And that little girl that stood next to her, her life will never be the same. So if I can help in any way, shape, and form, that no mommies that have to die and leave their children behind, I'm there. and it's not for the glory, it's not for the financial or whatever. It's because because people need helping hand, and again, me, I do what I do. I look at myself in a way that, yeah, my father would always say, everything you do, you need to be humble, and my father was a very humble man, and he had a love for our people, and he installed that love for our people within myself, and throughout my life, learning and being in recovery myself, and and living life, and this year I celebrated 37 years, and that's an accomplishment, but in a way it's just one day at a time, and ups and downs, death and all, losses, the whole bit, but I managed to stay sober, and help others. And again, it's just the minimal modesty win. Our ancestors always talked about learn to live a good long life, and teach your children. I was at the clinic earlier today to pick up some medication. I saw this woman and her little baby, and they look cute little kid, and I said, "Oh, look, little Abanunji, little one of our little children, Quayzance, a little girl. She was just cute as a button, and to talk to the mom and just say, hey, this is what we do." So again, that's kind of like my story. I know there's a lot more to it, but and the things that we do, the traditional healing, providing sweat lodges, ceremonial aspects. We do I say we do funerals and marrying people in a traditional sense, and understanding and educating our people about, the way of the pipe, the way of the sweat lodge, the way of the ceremony, and that's a sense of belonging. That's a sense of identity. And our names, or Shawskogijik means blue sky, and the Mongan clan, from the Wolf clan. And originally I'm from the land of the white clay, which means White Earth Reservation, west here. But my family I got relatives that come from Bad River. My great grandma Star, she was one of the founders of Three Fires Madewin over there in Bad River. So understanding that, gives me a connection, a connection not only to hear, what they call the Lake Superior bands, of Ojibwe people, but also Mississippi. Anything east of the Mississippi, we were known as the Mississippi Band of Ojibwe people. So understanding you're getting to understand some of your culture, your language is always important. One of the things is learning how to speak. I always say, "Bongi kadunata Ojibwe moan." I just know a little bit, but I can always say if I never learn another word, I can say I had a conversation with my grandmother. My grandmother was my dad's mom. She died at the age of 95 years old, and she was a very hard-working woman. She went to boarding school. They put her in boarding school, and when she was a little girl, and she knew her language, and she grew up to be a nurse. She worked at different hospitals, Detroit Lakes Hospital, in different areas back home, and and she retired from there and went into healthcare. She worked at the place over in Leech Lake area, and helped people. And at the age of 75 years old, she wanted to go back to school to learn her language. Hey, no dog there raising hell, and that's one of my little baby girls. But anyway, my grandmother, she went back to school to learn her language at the age of 75. And she graduated. She graduated from Leech Lake Tribal College, and then she went off over to BSU, Bemidji State University. She wanted to be a psychologist, and at the age of 75 years old, and she was a very inspirational woman. And I would say if I never have, learned any more words of our language, I need to be quiet over there. I can always say I had a conversation with my grandmother. And the conversation I had with her, was we had a traditional giveaway, and that's when we had some relatives that passed on, and we all had a giveaway. And my grandma, I come walking in at the center, she looked at me, she said, "Ani na siya yan." And I looked at her, I said, "Holy man, that's Niminoya, Miigwech, and the Dash." And when she asked me, she said, "Hello, how are you?" And I responded, "I am well, thank you. Niminoya, Miigwech, I am well, thank you." And then I went, Dash, and that means, "And you, how are you?" And she looked at me, she said, "You're 95 years old." I mean, she was quite a woman, and I think that's where a lot of that started with my father. The women in his life, the women in my life, my mother, my grandmother, my wife, the women in the community, and understanding that we all have a part within this helping our people. And Gamaji does their part, the home and helping the people with the housing and the issues that we deal with today. They're immense, and sometimes we get overwhelmed, but yet we keep going. We keep going forward. I'm an old man now. I'm in the Queens. He's an old man. I got I learned what a pronoun was the other day. I say, "Oh, Buzo, Jausko Gizik." My pronouns are Giwanadeze, Akwenze. I'm a crazy old man. That's my pronouns. I didn't know what a pronoun was, but anyway. But yes, it's helping people.
Yeah. You were talking about your father, and I remember going to a sobriety feast when I was in my early 20s and listening to your dad. He was getting a coin for many, many years of sobriety. And when he got up to talk, what he said was so real. It wasn't, it was just so direct, and it was such a good message. And he had a profound impact on me, and I'm sure all the people that were there that night. But I was wondering too, I know that you do a fathers group, and could you talk a little bit about the fathers group you do, and like why do you do a fathers group?
Yeah, we started a fathers group not too long ago, and well, we originally started the fathers group when we were over at the Gamachi building, and we had a lot of good turnout. Guys would come and we'd provide. I have a background in early childhood development. When I used to work at Fond Lake Head Start program, and go into trainings and understand. I was a Shibakwe and Nini. I was the cooker man, but I was a lot more than that. And being with the kids, and learning about their development, from the time they're in the womb, until they get older, start becoming, little toddlers and whatever have you. So understanding, and being educated about child development and starting a fathers group, and educating men, fathers, young fathers regarding child development, how your child develops, even in the womb, they can hear your voice, and they can recognize your voice, and when you hold them, and how fathers have, how you want to put it, how we bond with our children. Fathers bond with their children totally different than the mothers do. A father can hold their baby in one hand and have the eyes looking right at him, and the baby feels safe, and secure. But the mom is over there going, put it down, put it down. But in some ways, that's how we bond with our children. So educating men and fathers in that aspect, to be part of your child's life. And some guys would come, and they don't see their children. The mother got custody, and unfortunately, but I would always tell them, be a part of your child's life. And regardless if you're with your baby's mama, be a part of your child's life, because they need that. They need that guidance. They need that direction. Being a single parent myself, raising my son, I got full custody of him when he was 5 months old, and raising my son, being a single parent, it's not easy, and I did my best with what I had at the time. And now I'm able to help other fathers. And it's kind of cool because I'm an old father. I'm a grandpa now. Yeah, and so we get different age categories. We got young fathers, we got middle-aged fathers, and we got grandpas. And so they all get the same. We're all there to offer something for those younger fathers. To let them know, that you're going to be okay. You might not be able to. You might struggle right now, but you're going to be okay. Patience and tolerance. When your baby's crying, to be a part of that instead of getting angry and frustrated, to be a part of that, and nurture your child and be with your child. And being a father, it was kind of one of my achievements, I guess, in some ways. Yeah. And my proudest achievement was to raise my son. And as he grew, and I grew at the same time, and now I have an opportunity to educate other guys, other fathers, and to provide a place for them. And you get a bunch of guys together, and we start talking about our children. It's just, they don't like it. I mean, it's guy stuff. Yeah, and mothers might not understand that, but it's the father thing. And in my product, working with fathers and attending groups and whatever have you, I learned that that mothers, they protect their children from what's out there, and the father's job is to prepare their child for what's out there. I know when I was younger, my dad was, well, it's time for you to leave now. The bird kicking you out the nest here. That's his way of telling me, well, it's time for you to go now. But on the other hand, my mom saying, no, 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 no. My baby can't go anywhere, But my dad's like, oh, yeah, he can, and you got to take that first step, and fatherhood, it's a wonderful gift, and for a lot of guys, in recovery, losing connection with their kids, and helping them to reconnect, and a lot of, child support issues. And I had the same issues, but able to work through them, able to be accountable, to your child, and it's such a wonderful thing, and so I think that fatherhood, is very important. And today, a while back, the federal government, putting in funds for fatherhood programs, but we just do it because there's a need, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, those are, I mean, from the talking circle to the different ceremonies that you help offer out to the community, it's like a lot of community-led, healing. And so could you talk a little bit about, like, just from your perspective, like, what do you consider the strengths in Indigenous community?
Well, I think it's the sense of being together. I grew up. I didn't grow up here in Duluth. I grew up in South Minneapolis, and in the community, community being together. South Minneapolis, where I grew up, you knew you were part of a community, an Anishinaabe community, and the Indian Center on Franklin Avenue was Mecca. That's where the place we went to. And here in Duluth, when I came here to a halfway house, Thunderbird House back in 1980s, 86, 87, and being a part of the community, and making a home for myself here. And because of my past and stuff, I was moving around, it's a long story, but anyway, setting down roots, and being a part of a community. And I think it's so important, and an organization such as AICHO, but prior to that, there was Miigwech, and that was a Native American Rand organization, and we provided a lot of, being involved with it, being involved, getting involved, and being part of it, and providing, powwows and, education, undoing racism and those type of topics, and the people that were in charge, that's what, they did, and being a part of it. And so when it comes to, who we are as Anishinaabe people, it's the togetherness, and when we have our gatherings, Friday nights they had, at the end of the month, they have the sobriety feast, and that's a wonderful thing, to have our people get together, and congregate, and socialize. And that's so important, and today, the younger people that I know of, they're sobering up and they're getting back into their culture, and being an old man, being a part of that, to provide something for our young people. I think, being an elder, I guess I'm an elder now, but being out there, I'm not waiting for our young people to come to knock at my door. I'm out there going to their front door. How you doing? What's going on with you? Can we help you in any way, in any form? And being a part of a community is so important. When I was growing up, I was never a part of a community. And we moved around. It was just, home was where we hung our hats, until we settled down in South Minneapolis and being a part of a community. I was talking to a young man the other day. I was emceeing a powwow at a Fond du Lac, and the American movement. And I looked at him, and he was a young kid. I don't think he knew what AIM was all about. Because I grew up in that era. And I said, well, you know the 3 years AIM were? No. I thought that education had, Clyde Belcourt, Dennis Banks, and Russell Means. And this is what they did. And we did that here in Duluth, to provide and to build a community of Native people, and to help to gain a voice. Renee Vanette, she was the first Native woman to ever be part of city council. Back in that, you'd never think that would happen. But she was consistent. She would give up, and she did it. And Renee, I'm very proud. She was a dear friend of mine. Knew her a long time, her whole family. But being a part of that, being a part of a community, and to be able to provide something for that community, and Anishinaabe, that's what we are, and educating our people, in many ways, providing many things for them. So for some, they have nowhere to turn. I know family, when they lose a loved one, where do I go? I don't know what to do. So we're there for them, to guide them, traditionally or, non-traditional, it's just to be there to help. And I think that's so important in our community. And again, in all communities, drugs are a big part of it, and that can tear us apart and, or bring us closer together, for the cause. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great answer. I just have I have one more question, and then I'm gonna check and see if we have some questions in the chat. So right now would be a great time if you have some questions to kind of get those typed in. I know it takes some time to get those typed in, but so Frank, you talked about the strengths in the Indigenous community, and a large part of that is just having and being a part of community and belonging. And then what do you see as community practices, like Indigenous, Native community practices that really support and build health?
I think today, with the different types of movements, in recovery. I speak from a recovery, alcohol recovery, drug alcohol recovery, and some of the things that are happening right now with our young people. Back in the time when I was first sobered up in this, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have, internet, we didn't have these things. But today, a lot of our young people are stepping up, and they're creating sober environments for people, sober activities, they call it, like the Sober Squad of Duluth, and Fond du Lac. It's so cool to see these young people stepping up and saying, hey, we need something to do. So they invite other young sober people and old sober people to get together, and such as, the end of the month sobriety feed with the Sober Squad here in Duluth. They have gatherings, outside. They go out. They had the I think it was recovery, celebrating recovery over at by the lake a few months ago. And certain different things like that. our young people are stepping up, and it's so cool to see. Because when I was early in sobriety, I was the same way. It was like, heck yeah, we got to do something. Let's do something. Let's all get together. And our young people today are doing that. Like I said, I'm a Quincy. I'm an old man. So I kind of sit back and I watch. And I remember one young guy said, he said, how do you want to put it? He said, different generations. In my generation, we paved the road for our young people today. We were there. We didn't give up. And now they're not giving up. They're providing, and spreading the message, spreading the word, of recovery, culture, language. They're, and a lot of these young people are, they got their spirit names, and they're going by those spirit names. And so if you don't know Ojibwe, it's kind of, well, what's that mean? What's their name? But the thing is that these young people are taking pride, within their culture, and that's so good to see. Because like I said, when I was growing up, it wasn't there, until there was a movement, back in the time, back in the day of culture, Ojibwe language, culture, customs, traditions, learning about the spotlight. It was all coming back, and now it's going forward, into the future, and when I talk to these young people, I let them know, people are going to outer space now. They're going to the threshold of outer space, and they're coming back. And one day our people will go to outer space. We have that understanding of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the universe, that interconnectedness, understanding where we're within this world here. And so when our people go up to outer space, they already know and have that understanding and that connection to those aspects of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the universe. They know about these things. And then pretty soon they start bringing their pipes. They're bringing the drum, and I would like to hope so one day, when my great-great-grandson goes to outer space, he will bring my pipe along with him and smoke pipe up in prayer up in outer space somewhere, and that's, we can do that. People are doing that today. And so our young people are our next generation. I always tell them at our groups, I love each and every one of them. And tell them, let them know you are the next generation of sober Indian people, sober people, Anishinaabe, and you learn about these things. You carry that forward to you, your family, your community, and when you see a need, step up. Don't be shy. I would say the worst thing anybody can say is no, but that's not too bad. I've been told no many a times. It doesn't stop me, but it's okay. But I guess that's one thing that I see in our community, and it's a wonderful thing. A wonderful thing to see, and wonderful thing to be a part of. And I'm a part of that. I would think there was a gathering of elders. Said I'm 64 years old, and it's like, I don't hang around people 64 years old. I hang around people that are 20, young people. Yeah, I don't know any older people. Yeah, and the ones I do know, they're at home, and they're not involved. They're just sitting at home. And I encourage them to get up and be part of this. Our young people need to see us. They need to hear us. We have a message to carry as Anishinaabe elders, Kwenze, Mindamuye. We have a message, to share. So I hope that answered your question. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about, like, with all of the work that you're doing, the community work that you're doing, and you just picked up and started doing it. And I know that you're incredibly humble, but just how many lives that you have really touched and impacted and brought a lot of healing to. And just want to say, I always say Miigwech to you for all the work you do. One of the things with the community work that you do, there's like always that cultural aspect. And I always think, like, we can't underestimate the power of culture, and that people, especially with Native people, with our history of, it's no one's fault when they don't know. When, like for myself, I didn't grow up smudging. We didn't have sage. And I was a teenager when, I was lucky, I lucked out. I got to go to a language camp. It was immersion camp, and we had elders there and we had medicine people there who taught us how to use our traditional medicine. And that's the first time like I offered tobacco. It's the first time that I smudged. And I think that Native people really crave those teachings, and that, in our way that we do it by doing it. Like when you are in talking circle and you bring the pipe and you're talking, you do that opening and you do that prayer, but also like the way that we share by our examples of like when we bring our tobacco and we offer that when we talk, and then when we go around and like today when you smudged for us to show us, hey, this is our medicine and it helps us. So I really appreciate that. And then I think trying to convey to people that how important these cultural practices are in healing, and that people get so much, and there's so much to it. It's very deep. It's not, it's very simple, but it's also very deep. So I just want to say thank you for always bringing those teachings to people, no matter who they are and where they're at in life. So I want to check and see if we have some questions here. So we have some questions around, can you tell us about when, like if someone was interested in like either the talking circle or the fathers group, either for the in-person and for the Zoom, like when do those meet and how would they find out about them?
Well, on Tuesday afternoon, what I do is I post all the numbers on Zoom, the ID number and the passcode number. And I change them up every week because the aspect you might get some trolls in there, that come in and disrupt, and I post up to my Facebook page and our minimum Akana business page as well, and so the people that have that, that's where I let the information out. And a lot of people, they know, they know the people that come, they know, and so, but the in-person, Thursday night, every Thursday night at 7:00 over at the White Earth office. It's right across the street from Gamaji, 205 West 2nd Street, Suite 15. And flyers, I think there's some flyers out there. There's flyers. I send out flyers. And recently we're going to be starting a NA meeting, a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, back over at the Gamaji. At one time it was there when we first started it. And I'm going to cut back a little bit and not allow, but offer, people that, in new recovery to host the meeting, to be the chair of the meeting. And that's important. They get involved and be part of that. So again, you can find me on Facebook, or I'm one of those Facebook Indians. I don't know, I never heard about it until we had a family reunion. And my cousins were like, "You on Facebook, man? Facebook, that's why I follow that. I'm on Facebook now, I guess." So,
Yeah.
But that's where you can find the talking circle. It's just Frank Goodwin.
Yeah. Ivy posted your page. Is that also where your Facebook page in the chat? Is that also where you find out where the fathers group meets?
Yeah. Fathers group. What I'll do is I'll post up a reminder. Fathers group 7:00. Over at where we have it, and every now and then we'll take a road trip. The fathers, we go to the sweat lodge out at the Fond du Lac Cultural Center. I bring the dads out there. This month we're going to the sweat lodge, but also we're taking a trip up to Grand Portage, to be part of their sobriety feast. I think it's the second one, but they invited me up there, and I'm going to invite some guys to come along and to get a guest speakers and this and that. And the first one I had was pretty good. Pretty good food up there too. So all right. So doing things like that, and then have a once a month feast and pizza night and getting involved. Fathers group and our talking circle. Our talking circle, it's come a long ways, and I think that's important, to get together and to do those types of things. If you've never been to it, you're more than welcome to come. Check it out.
And Ivy said that people can email Ivy. She put her email address in the chat for the flyer for the fathers group as well, and Ivy will send that out.
Yeah, and also that's Ivy too, that Narcotics Anonymous one too. It's gonna be starting up over at the Gamaji, back over at the Gamaji. A lot of the stuff we did at the beginning started over at Gamaji, and that's where people got introduced to us, to the program. So
yeah,
and the things that we do.
Well, I know that a lot of people come to your groups, and it just seems like whatever is happening in those groups is really working because people keep coming back, and just really appreciate. There's a question here. What are some typical topics that are discussed in the talking circle? Do you have a topic?
Well, we have our elders meditation, and that's through White Bison. They have their elders meditation, and that's part of our readings. If you ever go to a 12-step meeting, they have certain readings that they read. But that's one of the things that we share. And if people want to talk about the topic or the reading, and there's no such certain topic, but if they want to talk about the reading, that's fine. But we encourage them to share whatever's on their mind and whatever they want to talk about. And once you get people that that are really hurting, and they start talking, and they start sharing, and one thing we do is we pass around an eagle wing fan. And I always let the people know, out of respect for that Miigwech, the sacred eagle, we show just as much respect to that person that's holding that by listening, by listening to what that person is saying. Yeah, and I let them know, it took a long time for me to be a good listener. My father told me, that you got to be a good listener, and to learn to be a good listener, to truly listen to people. I hear them every day, but do I truly listen to them? But that's part of one thing that, I make sure that I let the people know at the talking circle is that we show respect to one another, and what's said here, will stay here. And if we can help each other out, that's great, but as the group is going on, you put your phones away, you turn them off. I let them know if you have a problem with, turn your phone off for an hour. And if you got a problem, turning your phone off, you might be at the wrong meeting. So technology is can be addictive as well. But yeah, there's no certain topics. Some people might talk about the reading, but others will just open up and what's going on in their lives. And I think that makes it so real. It's like it's like people are sharing, their trauma, their guilt, their shame, especially in recovery, young mothers losing their children, but also mothers getting back their children in custody, and fathers as well. And there's a couple that come, and I really love when I see them, that they're sober, and they're doing it, they're getting their children, they're fighting like hell. And every time they come, they talk about the fight, and they talk about the struggle. And sometimes we need to do that, And so again, there's no open topic. There's no topic at our talking circles, nor at our fathers group. So
yeah, I really like that about the listening. It's like a lot of times, like we receive so much, or just when we sit and listen to other people, that's like a lot of healing too. So I guess I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I have one last question before we close out. So in relation to like health or healing, what's the best advice, or some of the best advice that you've ever received?
there's so much throughout my life, I guess, and throughout. Yeah, and I always remember my early recovery. I did a video in Red Lake. It was Powell. Actually, it was Christopher Columbus Day, and they were doing kind of like at a powwow, and they talked about sovereignty and different types of issues that they were bringing up, and I started interviewing people. You remember those big old cameras those big movie cameras, and my dad bought my mom one, and I was like, yeah, cool, I can use this. Well, VHS tape and whatever. And I started interviewing people, just talking with them. I interviewed one young lady. She just, she was a jiggle dress dancer, but she passed the bar. She was a lawyer as well. Talk to these young boys, that were dancers, asking them questions. When you dance, how do you feel? Because I know as a dancer, I know how I felt. I would feel. And I asked them, do you carry those same feelings throughout the week, throughout your day, that you have about yourself as you're dancing? They said yes. And one guy, he was a Assiniboine, and he was from Canada. I think it was Assiniboine Sioux from Canada. And I'll never forget what he said, and along with this other old guy, but he had said, for years, generations, we've given up the blood of our children to find an identity. And that was it was a statement. I was like, holy crap, I wasn't expecting that. And it was just a camera, ask people questions. When he said that, it was like, that identity, and he said, for generations, we've given the blood of our children, for that identity, and that was back in 1990, before that. And, when I did that video, and today they're known as First Nations people. So they might probably find that identity, and that's real cool. But I guess the advice that I got was from this old man. He was a guy from Newtown, North Dakota. I'll never forget that old guy. And I interviewed him, and what he did in his community, this old guy, he took all the young men in their community that weren't quite good enough. They weren't quite big enough for the football team. They weren't quite tall enough for the basketball team. And what he did, he turned them into fighters, boxers. He provided a gym, boxing gloves, but also the discipline that comes along with boxing, the philosophy that comes along with, we use the term pugilism. It's fighting, to learn how to fight, and protect yourself. And this old man, that's what he did in his community. And he saw a need, and so he took all these young men and turned them into fighters. Some went to the Junior Olympics, some tried for the Golden Gloves, but they all became, I don't know about all, but some of them became responsible young men. They went off to the military. They went off to college. They went off to doing positive things in their lives, and that's what that old guy did. But he started off just teaching them how to fight, how to box. And then from that they went on to achieve other things in their lives. And this old man, as I walked away, I told him, I said, "What would you tell our young people today?" And he looked at him, and he looked at me. He said, "Tell them that too much of one good thing will kill them." I said, "Okay." So I don't remember, too much of one certain good thing might kill you. If you like alcohol or drugs, that's definitely gonna kill you one day. And if you like a crazy relationship, that might kill you too. Whatever. But I remember, too much of one good thing might kill you. And that old man, I probably not living today, but I'll never forget what he said. And there's much more. I mean, my father would always, let me know, and other men that I had in my life, they would give me advice and let me know certain things, and one thing, to remain humble, in the things that you do, and it's to giver, you're a giver, and Oshkobewas, being a helper, and doing the best that you can, and passing that on to others. And so again, like I said, I'm an acquaintance, I'm an old man now, but there was a time, it was like, yeah, I can remember that time. Yeah. And I always tell the young people in my life, as long as I can put one foot in front of the other, I'll be there. It might take me a while to get there, but I'll be there.
Yeah, you are always there for our community, Frank. So, thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. Thank you for sharing all the work that you do and sharing your knowledge about why traditional healing and community-led healing really matters in our community. And just want to say Miigwech, and on behalf of everyone that came here tonight, thank you for taking time to be a part of this conversation, and hope your rest of your evening is a good evening. So Miigwech.
Miigwech, there you go. I always tell the young people in our recovery groups, if you go to bed sober, there's a damn good chance you'll wake up sober.
Yeah.
It's how you deal with the day. But Miigwech, meet you.
Right, well, thank you, and have a good evening, everyone.